Y es un libro bien chido porque habla de la riqueza, pero no como la tenemos entendida normalmente en el mundo, que es únicamente finanzas, cosas materiales, dinero, sino todos los tipos de riqueza que podríamos o deberíamos cultivar para realmente tener una vida holísticamente rica.
Creo que es un libro que tienes que leer
Vale mucho
un
la
par
pena.
de veces porque cada capítulo está como muy fuerte.
Money is one of the forms of wealth. Money is important. It allows you to put food on the family table, allows you freedom. But there are 7 other forms of wealth that if you don't know them and live them, you're not going to live your richest life.
¿Cómo están? Bienvenidos a un nuevo episodio de Segundo Acto Podcast, este espacio en donde discutimos teorías, hacks, filosofías de vida, consejos y todo aquello que nos pueda ayudar a crecer y a ser mejores en este segundo acto de la vida. ¿Cómo estás, Alan?
Bien, muy emocionado porque creo que este episodio es importante para los dos porque es uno de nuestros gurús, líderes, no sé cómo decirle, gente que admiramos, que respetamos su trabajo. Alguien que hemos leído juntos, que hemos practicado juntos. Es un autor importantísimo. Es la primera vez que podemos decir.
Hay que decir esto, que tenemos un
New York Times bestseller author en el podcast. Y bueno, se trata de Robin Sharma, que Robin escribió este libro que se llama El Club de las 5 de la mañana, además de otro de
El monje que vendió su Ferrari.
Y ahora tiene uno nuevo, que es La riqueza que el dinero no puede comprar.
Exacto.
Todos son de editorial Grijalvo. Y bueno, tú y yo tenemos una historia con este libro del Club de las 5 de la mañana. Tú me contaste de él. A ver.
Sí, lo leímos, ¿qué será? Hace unos 4 años o 5. Bueno, no sé, pero ya tiene tiempo que lo leímos. Me acuerdo que lo descubrí, te lo comenté. Y es un libro donde básicamente habla de cómo sacarle el mayor jugo a tus mañanas, ¿no? Y cómo utilizarlas para potenciar tu bienestar, tu talento, pues básicamente cómo potenciar tu vida. Y en él, hacia muy grandes rasgos, habla de que levantarte temprano y aprovechar este tiempo en las mañanas donde hay silencio, donde nadie te molesta, cómo le puedes sacar jugo a 20 minutos de ejercicio, 20 minutos de visualización o aprender algo nuevo o meditar, etcétera. ¿Sabes cómo aprovechar la mañana para conquistar tu día? ¿No?
Sí, es ser más consciente, intencional con tu vida. Y a mí me costó un huevo de entrada despertarme a las 5 de la mañana porque no soy una persona que le guste levantarse temprano.
Sí, tan temprano.
Tan temprano, o sea, por naturaleza.
Sí.
Pero ya que lo hacía, o sea, ya que estaba despierto, me estaba jeteando, pero ya que lo hacía decía, qué increíble, la neta, porque sí, el mundo está callado.
Sí.
O sea, no hay nadie te está molestando.
Ni tu perro te molesta.
Nadie, todo el mundo está dormido.
Uh-huh.
Si sales a caminar, la calle está vacía. O sea, es una delicia, la neta, tener este tiempo como solo para ti. Y creo que sí la pasé muy bien haciéndolo, rescaté muchas cosas. Después se me fue el tren y justo lo vamos a platicar con él como de cómo regresar a esto.
Sí.
Pero creo que sí aprendí muchas cosas valiosas de mí y de tener esta paz. Lo sigo haciendo de vez en cuando, pero quiero retomar este hábito.
Yo la neta como que lo recorrí un poco y me convertí como en el 6:30, 7 a.m. club. Sí me sigo despertando temprano, la neta no tan temprano, pero sí utilizo todo el silencio de las mañanas siempre para hacer mi journaling, para tomar mi taza de café, para meditar tantito, no para hacer ejercicio, la neta el ejercicio lo hago después, pero en el momento donde sí lo pude hacer a las 5 de la mañana, sí sentí el cambio, sí sentí cómo potenció mi vida. Y bueno, creo que sí se me quedó un hábito, igual no tan temprano, pero sí sigo haciendo estas cosas de la mañana. Entonces, como que leer, o como dice Robin, ¿no? Cuando lees un libro, tienes una conversación con el autor. Y qué chido que pudimos tener esa conversación con Robin Sharma a través de su libro 5 a.m. Club. Y hoy es una realidad que no tengo idea cómo logró llegar al segundo acto tan rápido esta oportunidad, pero de tenerlo, no aquí físicamente, pero de estar con él y de tener una conversación real.
Sí, o sea, yo también estoy muy emocionado, tampoco sé cómo pasó, pero pues bueno, vamos a platicar con él y justo que nos cuente de su nuevo libro, de qué podemos sacar de ahí, qué podemos obtener. Nosotros ya le dimos una leída. Creo que es un libro que tienes que leer
Vale mucho
un
la
par
pena.
de veces porque cada capítulo está como muy fuerte y sacas cosas que vas rescatando y que podrías anotar cosas e incorporar. Es como esos libros para hacerle notas, ¿no?
Sí, por
Como
supuesto, para
para ir
rayarlo.
rayándolo y
Mi
demás.
abuelita decía que si no rayas un libro es como si nunca lo hubieras leído. O sea, entonces ya que se rayan, que se ponen notas, pensamientos, todo lo que viene. Y es un libro bien chido porque habla de la riqueza, pero no como la tenemos entendida normalmente en el mundo, que es únicamente finanzas, cosas materiales, dinero, sino todos los tipos de riqueza que podríamos o deberíamos cultivar para realmente tener una vida holísticamente rica.
100%. Es necesario este tipo de conversaciones.
Absolutamente.
Bueno, pues aquí está Robin Sharma.
Alan and Vince, what a pleasure meeting you. Thank you.
It's a real
Oh,
pleasure.
the pleasure is ours.
So, Robin Sharma, you know, we're so thrilled to have you here on the pod. Our podcast is called Segundo Acto Podcast, which means second act. And we tend to talk about things that people over 35 are experiencing. And that's where we are in life. So we try to look for hacks and tips and theories that help us grow. And you have to know something about us. We need to come clean because we're really big fans of yours. We were at the 5 a.m. club together, and we started doing it together as best friends. So that's something that really brought a lot of joy to our lives. And now we're obsessed with it and with your new book, in which you talk about these 8 great habits for wealth beyond financial wealth. So what if we start with that? What if we start with people over 35? Do you think that there's one of these habits that we should focus more on or start with, or are they just equally as important for all of us?
Well, first of all, if I brought joy to your life, Alan, and to Vince through the 5 a.m. club, that makes me feel great. The new book is The Wealth Money Can't Buy. And the main idea is really this. Society has said that you are rich when you have a lot of money. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people who have a lot of money or jets or houses or cars, and they still wake up with emptiness and a lack of inner peace. Yeah. And so what I've done in this book is I've shared a model called the 8 forms of wealth. Money is one of the forms of wealth. Money is important. It allows you to put food on the family table, allows you freedom, but there are 7 other forms of wealth that if you don't know them and live them, you're not going to live your richest life.
Perfect. And do you think that out of these habits or forms of wealth, when you're entering this stage of your life, is there something you should focus more on or pay more attention to? Because what we've discussed before is that we were different people in our 20s, in our early 30s. We were different people, and now our priorities have shifted. We're looking at life differently. As you said, we're focused more on being happy and having great experiences and really enjoying life. We've had losses. We've had losses of some of our dear and best friends and people in our family so close to us. And that's made us realize that you've got to make the most out of your life, and you can't live thinking that one day you'll retire and then everything will be fine. So is there something at this stage in life that we're living that you think we should focus more on?
Well, I get asked that question, which of the 8 forms of wealth would be most important? And I think they're all important. If I may, I'll just go through all 8 forms because it could be helpful. It could be helpful. So the first form of wealth, and society doesn't call this a form of wealth, but it's growth. If you are growing, if you are building intimacy with your gifts and your talents, if you're becoming stronger, wiser, more loving, I think you've got a form of riches worth celebrating. You're 35 or whether you're 18. We'll keep seeing you guys. But you could have all the money in the world, and if you don't have family and connections, then you're going to be empty. Fourth form of wealth is your craft. And You talk about second acts. I just started a new career as a painter, and I can tell you some of the things I'm learning from it. But your craft is an incredibly important form of wealth, because no matter what it is you do, all dignity is labor. And if you do your work with love, and if you look for challenges and all those kinds of things, it's a form of wealth. Fifth form of wealth is your community. Sixth form of wealth is adventure. Seventh form of wealth brings us to the eighth form of wealth, which is service. So I would say all of those forms of wealth are incredibly important. And without living and fueling each of those eight forms of wealth, I don't think you're going to have a happy life.
So you talked about connections, community, relationships. Sometimes when you're like in this second act of your life, you get to move abroad or change work or your job or your life or something. So what would be your advice, or what do you have to do to cultivate deeper and more meaningful relationships when you're at this stage in life, when sometimes you don't go to school anymore, or you don't get to be with a lot of people? So how do you do that?
I have 4 suggestions to build better relationships, especially to use your example, Vince, if you're traveling. First of all, I would say, if you want to be around amazing people, become an amazing person. So there's a lot of tools and tactics and habits in the Wealth Money Can't Buy, including what I call MVP, meditation, visualization, and prayer. But the first principle is become the person you want to bring into your life. Second thing I'd say, meet weirdos, eccentrics, and misfits. So if you're an entrepreneur, don't just look for other entrepreneurs. If you're an entrepreneur, go meet a chef for coffee. If you are a chef, go meet a taxi driver and say, I loved being in your taxi. I want to take you for lunch. But it is incredible the riches that come from meeting people who you consider weird and strange. Third thing I'd say, if you want to deepen your human connections so you experience the third form of wealth and the Wealth Money Can't Buy, be generous. I've heard so many people say, I have a friend and I always end up paying for the coffee or the lunch. But generosity beats scarcity every day of the week. So be a generous friend, be a generous family member, be the person who pays for dinner, be the person who said, I just read this book and I bought a copy for you. Be the person who says, you're going through a difficult time, I'm going to take the day off work and I'm going to be there. And no one's saying, be so generous you get taken advantage of, because people only take advantage of you if you allow people to take advantage of you and you don't know how to set boundaries. And then the final thing I'd say, Vince, about your question for relationships, I would say, take risks. Sometimes we'll be in a relationship, let's say an intimate relationship, and the relationship ends and society says, oh, you failed. I don't think you failed. I think that relationship was necessary for you to grow and become the person who you're meant to be to attract the right relationship.
Oh, that's amazing. I love you started the answer with the MVP acronym. I love it because I really believe that we are the most valuable players in our lives. We are the protagonists of our paths. And I love how you use that to meditate, visualize, and pray. Which led me to my next question. Sorry, Alan. When you pray, like I understand meditating, of course, and visualizing, but when you, Robin, pray, when you use prayer, what do you say? What do you imagine? What are the words when you pray?
What a brilliant question. And because your question is so intelligent, I'll give you a very personal answer. The first thing I would say, though, is prayer is a very hard-hitting tactic. I mean, I spend my life working with many of the most successful leaders and athletes in the world. And prayer is not something only for the mystical world. Science has proven the power of prayer. So when we want something, whether it's a new skill or whether we want something in our life, prayer is very valuable. And you're right, MVP in my methodology is meditation, visualization, and prayer. So how do I pray? It's Sometimes it's prayer on paper. When I write in my journal that I have right here in front of me, writing is in a journal is prayer on paper. But when I'm up at 4 o'clock praying, I pray for my elderly parents. I pray for my life partner, Elle. I pray for my children. I pray for my larger family, especially my 95-year-old grandmother. I pray for my dog. I pray for my team, who I love, my work team. I pray after my team, my CRFs, my clients, my readers, and my followers, because I have great love and respect for my clients and the readers. I have so many Mexican readers, and I pray for my followers. I mean, that's how I build an intimate relationship with the people who allow me to do what I do. This is not just for money. It's these are the people I want to serve. And by praying every morning for my CRFs, my clients, my readers, and my followers, I'll never take them for granted. And I'll always keep working harder and harder for them. Then I pray for my neighbors. Then I pray for the people in my country. And then I pray for a better, brighter, safer, happier world.
That's beautiful.
I love that. I was thinking earlier that we could use your 8 forms of wealth as a model for us, for establishing the episodes on our podcast, because we're looking for those tools to grow and to generate new habits and new improvements in yourself. And we've had people talk about the first one, which is growth coaches. We've had people talk about wellness, family and relationships. We've got people talk about jobs and all that stuff. Money, we're going to have someone on the podcast soon. But there are 2 or 3 that I don't know. Who do you think we should look for in terms of what kind of coach do we look out for in terms of service and community? Someone to guide us and to have on our podcast to talk about service and community. Who do you think would be a great example? And that makes me think that people also out there can look for someone to give them guidance on service and community.
Sure. So on service, which is the 8th form of wealth, out of the 8 forms of wealth the book is based on, there's a chapter in there that's called Recruit a Dead Board of Directors. And so when you say, who should be my mentors or my coaches, I would say find some dead ones, because they're very good advisors through their books and sometimes through their audios or videos. You know, when I think of service, to me, my life changed when I stood in Nelson Mandela's prison cell on Robben Island. So I you know, if you want a great mentor, read everything you can about Nelson Mandela. Read about Mother Teresa. Read about Nikola Tesla, read about Hedy Lamarr, read about some of these dead women and men who were attacked and they were vilified and they were called crazy. They were put in jail, but they changed the world. And I think when you read a book, if you read the right books, you know, Alan, there's the author's stardust transforms you. And then about the sixth form of wealth, which is community. Who would I have as a coach? I would say for you, you know, just find someone whose life you want to be living. And, you know, and I would say, again, this is why the 8 forms of wealth model that the Wealth Money Can't Buy is so powerful, because it's not only about money. I'm not saying financial wealth is not important. Yeah. There's 20 chapters. There's 20 chapters on how the billionaires that I've mentored, how they do it. But I think a lot of people, especially in the podcast age and the digital age, they're defining success and wealth by money. And that 6th form of wealth is powerful when you have a community of people around you whose lives you want to be living. They're just amazing people. They've maybe done amazing things in business, but they've got great. And by the way, that is possible. Then I think you're going to find the right people to have as your mentors in that 6th form of wealth of community.
I love it. I love that concept. And I have a personal question because, as I told you, we practiced together with the 5 a.m. club, and we did it for a few months on and off. And lately, for me, it's been a little bit difficult to reinstate the habit. Yeah. Stuff happened in my life, and I so enjoyed waking up earlier and having my victory hour and that time when the world is silent. And would you have any advice on how to go back to that? Because I really appreciated it, and I think I've lost it, and I feel that I want to go back so hard.
You're right. Getting up at 5 a.m. and I've started getting, I'm not saying I'm anyone special, but 4 a.m. is the new 5 a.m. And I say that with a smile on my face, but I do my
And what time do you go to bed?
You know what? It used to be 11 o'clock. Now it's about 9:30. And it took me a few months to establish that. But I've got to tell you, just because I want to help you and Vince and all of your many viewers and listeners, getting to bed at 9:30 is amazing for me. And a lot of people say, well, my culture, it's hard to get to go to sleep at 9:30. Well, then do it 4 days a week or 5 days a week. But then that allows me to, I do MVP, and then 5 o'clock, I do a 1 hour workout. And I just love it so much. So I'm happy to hear you love it. But what I would say is, it sounds like you've gone through a challenge, and honor the challenge and honor what you're going through. And if you're feeling, I don't know what it is, and I'm not asking what it is, but if you're going through pain or grief, then go through the grief. Life is a series of seasons. I've had times in my life where some really hard times, and I wasn't up every single day at 5 o'clock, and give yourself permission to do that. But there's a difference between honoring the season you're going through and getting sloppy. And so a time comes where it's time to get back on the horse and back into the 5 a.m. club. And when that happens, I would actually do a hard start tomorrow morning, get back at 5 a.m. club book. All changes start at first, messy in the middle, beautiful at the end. So it'll be a reintegration process, and then it'll become your new normal, and you'll be up again 5 o'clock and getting all the benefits.
Perfect.
But so we should just not fight with the situation. If we're living something difficult, just go through it, honor it, and then boom, go back to work. Is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I'm saying it's important to develop the understanding between the difference of feeling your feelings and going through a difficult time and experiencing it, because your pain purifies you. And if you dismiss it, you're going to suppress it and end up with health issues and emotional issues. So that's important work, to use your trauma to serve your growth. But having said that, we can spend the rest of our lives staying stuck in our trauma.
Absolutely.
And life is for the living, and a time comes, whether it's a week, a month, a year, where you say, okay, now it's time to get back on the horse, and it's time to get back to my usual elite performance habits, and you get back into the game.
Yeah, and you say this also in your book, like, if you need to start, just start. That's the best way to start, right?
I love that.
Yeah, that came from a journalist in Dubai, and she said, Robin, I love everything you're saying, but where do I start? And for me, it's like, don't complicate it. How do you start a painting? You start. How do you start a book? You write the first page. How do you run a marathon? You get off the couch and you go for a walk. How do you find true love? You walk up to someone in the avocado section of the grocery store and you say, would you have coffee with me? You just start.
Love that. And just to finish this off, what's the latest aha moment or big idea that you've been contemplating and playing with lately? Like what's something new that you've discovered lately, or that you're rediscovering in your life that's making a difference in yours?
Well, I think it's a third act. It's not only a second act, it's a third act, and it's a brand new career as an artist. My first career was as a litigation lawyer. My second career for 31 years has been as a writer. 5 a.m. Club, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, The Wealth Money Can't Buy, giving presentations. But my new career is an artist. And I have so many things I would share, but an aha is when something feels so strong and honest within you, even if it makes no sense, you absolutely deserve to follow it through, to see where it leads, because that is your voice of wisdom. Or you could say it's God, which I think is your voice of wisdom. And if the word God doesn't suit any of your listeners, call it the universe. But we all have an instinct. We all have a voice of wisdom and wonder. And when we neglect that voice, I think we do damage to our soul. And when we listen to that voice, even if our family and friends say we're crazy, we honor the best within us, and only good things come from that.
And that's also an adventure. You mentioned that too, to seek adventures.
I love that. Robin, thank you so much. You don't know how much this talk with you means to us. We're having coffee, and we said earlier, when in the world would have we thought that we would be having coffee with you one day, and even if it's through Zoom, we're so lucky. Thank you for all you've done for your work and the love that you put into things, because it shows. And thank you for being so kind to share your knowledge and your time with us.
Well,
Thanks, Robin.
I feel lucky to be with you both. So Alan and Vince, thank you very much. And thanks for such kind words about my work, and keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.